Isaac Sarason is a skilled hacker formerly employed by British Telecom-Sprint. With his health failing, Isaac did the only thing he could think of. He ran. He found a haven in a working-class district of the city known as Little Russia. There Isaac took on a new name, Ishmael. Within hours of his arrival, he was embroiled in the affairs of a brutal member of Lomidze organized crime family known as Leo. Convinced by a longtime friend, Frankie, to flee from his commitments to the Lomidze family, Isaac found himself hunted by the ruthless Leo. On a rooftop, far from witnesses, Leo murdered Frankie. Only through the use of his skills as a hacker was Isaac able to drive Leo off. Now wounded, alone, and far from help, Isaac depends on the kindness of strangers. What do you do when the only way to save those you love is through the use of proxies? Colbyjack.net is proud to present Firmware Proxy by Colbytrax. 22. Nightmares wrap me in bonds as tight as the sheets I twisted in mockery of my dreams. I was on a rooftop. It must be the one above Ivanova's. Hideously deformed machinery blocked my view. No matter where I turned, there was no escape. I saw a gap between the hungry mouth of a vent and the crackling malice of a transformer. I seized the gap, running from that voice. The laughing voice of my nightmares pursued me. Though I couldn't see him, I knew it was Leo. Leo was coming for me as he came for Frankie. I approached the gap between the vent and the transformer and found my way blocked. Lightning arced across the gap from the malicious transformer. The hungry vent extended hands of riveted pain. It reached for me as a blind man searches for a curb with his cane. I turned to seek a new avenue of escape and found my way blocked. Shoulder to shoulder, in a circle about me, stood all I owed. There was Frankie, flanked by a squad of BTS security goons in perfectly tailored ballistic business suits. There was Nona, her body lithe and inviting, in her arms a child with a face so radiant I could make out no details. There was Sergio beside Nona, his eyes sad, as if I was a disappointment he wanted to forget. I turned from them to see Frankie and Mara standing hand in hand, between them a shadow dream of a child never to be. Light streamed through bloodless holes in Frankie. I screamed and turned. There was Ferran, a view of the holy city of Mecca behind him, a glowing sense-net held before him as a holy relic. A shadow figure stepped into view, his face unformed, his stance both threatening and inviting at the same time. I didn't know him, but I knew his name. It was Dr. Riona. "What do you want?" I screamed. I must have loosened the realm of dreams for a moment, for I knew I was tangled in my sheets. I knew my keyboard had just hit the floor, along with my prescription bottles. It wasn't enough. I was back on the rooftop, surrounded by all I owed, all I had wronged. "What do you want?" I asked again. Tears were flowing down my face. Why was I crying? What did I know that I didn't want to admit? "Payment," the gathered circle of spirits said in unison. I turned out my pockets. I had nothing with which to pay. "Make it right," the ghost of Sergio said. "Make what right?" I asked. "It was Leo who set this into motion. You should get your pound of flesh from him." "Make it right," Mara said. "What do you want? Blood for blood?" I stammered. I looked through Frankie. I thought I heard the ghost of an answer. "Make it right," Murray said. The chorus of security men harmonized with him. "It was you who made me this way. It was your needs which caused this. It is you who are killing me," I screamed at the impassive figure of Murray. "Make it right," Ferran prayed. "I can't," I admitted. "You haven't brought me what I need." I spun around as the voices joined in a chorus of "Make it right." All that is but Nona. Nona stood passive, a tear in her eye. I moved to her. "What is it you want?" I fell to my knees. "Nothing," she answered with the voice of an angel. "I have all I need. I don't need you to make my way in the world. I am strong. Nothing will stop me. Besides..." She trailed off. "Besides what?" I asked. "You are too weak," she said, turning from me. "Don't go!" I cried. I heard the feet of the chorus behind me approaching, encircling. "Make it right," they droned as Nona faded from view. I stood and faced them. "Make it right! Make it right!" I screamed. "I'll make it right," I pointed at Ferran. "You will have your maker. You will have your maker. But it will be in my own time, not yours." Ferran must have been satisfied, for he faded from view. I turned on Mara and Frankie. "For you, I will destroy Leo. As he killed you, so shall I kill him." Mara smiled and faded. Frankie shook his head in negation. I took Frankie's shattered hands in mine. "Why? Why isn't it enough?" A whisper came to me from Frankie. "That is not in you. That is not your way." "It will be," I mumbled. Sergio came to Frankie's side. "Your friend is right. That is beyond you." "Then what should I do? Destroying Leo would be a boon to you. I can do it. I know I can," I said, falling to my knees. As if in chorus, the ghostly voice of my dead friend and the gangster lord spoke as one. "Help Nona. She needs you more than we need revenge." Satisfied, they said their piece. Frankie and Sergio faded away on the winds of a dream. I looked up and saw Murray and his security goon Cora standing above me. "Revenge is not what we want. We gave you life and liberty. You owe us." I heard the howls of Leo in the distance, a spectral wolf haunting the rooftops. "I have a coin you desire," I said, "a coin which will balance all accounts." "What could you give us that would stop our wrath? What can you do to stop the Furies?" the security goons asked as one. "Maspana," I said, "I will give you her. In exchange, you will give me freedom." Murray nodded at the goons. As one, they faded. Only Murray remained. "Do this. Do not run. If you run, you will die." Murray faded. The howling of Leo grew. Only the shadow of Dr. Riona remained. I felt his eyes pierce my soul, and his mouth split into a cackling laugh. He strode to me on legs of shadow. I couldn't run, couldn't move. As the darkness engulfed me, I screamed. I woke in my bed, sheets tangled about my limbs, the mattress damp with my nightmare exertions. It had only been a dream, but I knew what I had to do. Screw Sergio. I was strong enough. 23. Rama contacted me while I was watching Nona sleep off the effects of a taser. I had watched her entire day, from waking, breakfast, and aerobics to the long, angry hours when she paced her room like a jungle cat, her light skirt stirring up dust as she turned. Lunch came, delivered by Stranger 2 in a brown paper bag. 2 bottles dangled from a plastic ring. Nona sat on the bed, her right hand beneath her lumpy, caseless pillow. Stranger 2 smiled as he set the bag and bottles on the table. I shifted cameras, trying to find one which would reveal what Nona had beneath the pillow. I ran an inventory of her room. What was missing? Stranger 2 smiled at Nona and said something. There wasn't any audio. I had no clue what he said. I saw the muscles on Nona's back tense. She was coiled tight, like the mainspring in a child's toy the moment before it breaks or is released. Stranger 2 didn't seem to notice. He was all forced smiles and careless motion. He kicked the door shut with his heel. The door swung easily. There was a definite click when it stopped. I don't need audio. Nona's muscles tightened like a bodybuilder's when the door shut. I saw her chest move as she forced herself to breathe. She was trying hard to appear relaxed. It didn't work for me. I don't think it was working for Stranger 2, but something about his manner said he didn't care. He took off his jacket and folded it carefully. Without taking his eyes off Nona, he laid it on the short bookshelf against the wall. He loosened the collar on his shirt and approached Nona. There was intent in his bearing, a desire I found disturbing. Nona tensed. Stranger 2 forced himself on top of Nona. She struck at him with her left hand, slapping him about the head. Somehow, she kept her right hand beneath the pillow. She struggled against him. I screamed at him. Anger built in my chest. My Opemapo no screamed with alarms. My shunts couldn't keep up. His knees were between hers, forcing her legs apart. His right hand held her left hand against the bed. Her face was twisted in anger. His right hand moved down her leg, seeking the hem of her dress. I overrode the alarms on my shunts. I set them to maximum flow. I heard the whir of their tiny turbines vibrating in my head. I watched helplessly as his hand found the edge of her skirt and shoved it up her leg. He lifted his waist, his free hand fumbling with his belt. He was having problems. He hadn't thought this through. He needed to open his pants. She was thrashing under him like a bronco. He released her left arm and slapped her roughly. I roared as Nona went slack. Her will broke. She laid there limp. It was the car crash you couldn't look away from, the train wreck you knew was coming, but just couldn't turn away from. Stranger 2 raised himself on an elbow and found the trick for getting his pants down. His head was bent against his chest, allowing him to observe the task of removing his pants while pinning Nona to the bed with his skull. I saw a thin smile appear on Nona's face. I watched as she released a long breath, much longer than I thought she could hold. Her right hand flashed from beneath the pillow. The outside of her fist slammed into the neck of Stranger 2. Her hand came away from his neck. A spray of blood erupted like a volcano. The side of her fist was covered in blood. Something long, thin, and gleaming darkly extended past her fist. Stranger 2 sat up sharply. He leaned back, his legs doubled up beneath him, his hands clamped on his neck. Nona brought her hands together over her head and stabbed into his abdomen in a two-fisted strike. He fell back as a black spot appeared on his shirt just below the center of his stomach. The bed wasn't long enough to catch him. He hit the floor. His neck bent unnaturally. Firmware, Proxy, is the second book in the Firmware pentology. That's 5 books, if you must know. It begins moments after Firmware Hijacked ends. So if you haven't heard or read Firmware Hijacked, this would be a good time to head on over to Colbyjack.net and either download the podcast on the audio side, read the episodes on the visual side, or download the Colbyjack Sunday Reader issues 1 through 20 in your choice of either EPUB or Mobi. Firmware, Hijacked, and Proxy are both available in ebook versions from our store at shop.colbyjack.net, amazon.com, and Barnes & Noble. Just search for Colbytrax. That's Colbytrax. I'm the only one. A complete audiobook version of both Firmware, Hijacked, and Proxy is available for download through our shop as well. If you don't need any stuff, but would like to support our work, drop on by Colbyjack.net and hit the pretty little donate button conveniently located on the right-hand side of the blog roll. If you're on a smaller screen, the button will be found at the bottom of the page. Firmware Proxy is released under a Creative Commons, non-commercial, attribution, share-alike 3.0 license. Do what you want with it, just don't sell it, and always tell people where it came from. If you received this from a friend and want more information about Colbyjack.net and our split personality website, just drop on over to Colbyjack.net and select either the audio or visual side. The audio side carries our podcast, while the visual side carries our writings. Whichever side catches your fancy is fine with us. We're of two minds about the whole thing anyway. If you want to get social with me, I do mostly Twitter. So if you do the tweets and want to follow me, I'm Colbytrax. Spelled the same as above, Colbytrax. We could sing that all night long. Thank you once again and have a wonderful week.